spicy topic is on the Ranveer Show. Pakistan in 2025. If you take the average Pakistani and place them in Mumbai, Delhi or Bangalore, what do you think are thoughts that would appear?
I think they would be bewildered by the number of Hindus they see around them and realizing that Hindus don't have horns on their head and many of the stereotypes that they had been taught are utterly false.
If we try personifying the Pakistani military as one person, how would that person look back at itself?
The army has now become the state. The moment democracy starts getting some roots, they chop it off. They still think had they done that genocide they did in Bangladesh much better, Pakistan would not have been broke. Which is what they are now trying to do in Balochistan. On the face of it, it is a disastrous thing to do. And yet the Pakistan army is doing it because they think this will make Pakistan great again.
Truths about Balochistan.
It has suddenly become really serious. Suddenly a train is hijacked with 400 people. Politicians who say that there is no police, there is nothing. They've passed an order that highways will be closed at night. If you lose control over highways, you've lost control.
How China is viewing Pakistan?
I think they've given up on the money they have spent. They still see some strategic value. It's a dog that keeps snapping at India's heel. Pakistan, on the other hand, continues to look at China as a sugar daddy. In Pakistan, they say, "Mainu note vikha, mera mood bana."
How will Imran Khan's career be remembered?
For shaking up the military establishment like no one in Pakistan has ever done. In 2007, I was in Pakistan. Musharraf was just imposing his second coup and they put Imran in jail. And within 4 or 5 days, apparently he started crying and stuff like that and they let him out. I didn't think he will be able to handle jail. He has surprised everybody. But I don't see a future for Imran. The Pakistan army has to decide, can they live with Imran Khan or not?
Sushant Sareen is one of the most respected geopolitical observers in India, but his subject is Pakistan. Pakistan as a country, and I know that we have an immense amount of viewers from Pakistan. Pakistan is a country that's witnessing a lot of inner turmoil as we speak in 2025. This is a 101 on the geopolitics of Pakistan as well as an update on what's happening as we speak. These are the kind of stories and facts that traditional news media may not show you. We've also tried to make this conversation as simple as possible so that we have a maximum amount of teenagers and college students also listening into this particular podcast. I think it's very important to be informed about what's happening in the subcontinent. So whether you're a viewer from India or Pakistan or anywhere in the globe, I promise you that you won't find as detailed and as simple an explanation as this podcast contains. It's Mr. Sushant Sareen, who makes his TRS debut with this special on Pakistan. Enjoy the episode. A spicy topic is back on the Ranveer Show. Sushant sir, welcome to TRS.
Thanks for having me over.
You are one of India's experts on Pakistan. We also have a Pakistani audience. We have a big global audience now. I think it's important for the truth to come out. I think it's important for it to be packaged in a way that everyone can understand it. I know that no one my age watches the news anymore. I know that younger people are actively not watching the news. Look at this particular podcast as a means to educate teenagers, people in their 20s and people in their 30s on everything about Pakistan in 2025. Comfortable with this thought?
Absolutely.
Okay. So we're going to begin with the pace round first. I'm going to ask you some questions to set context. Sorry about the lack of hi, hello at the start of the conversation.
No, it's okay.
Okay.
My kids are like that, so it's fine.
Hope you had a splendid time before the podcast. Okay. But getting back to it, some quick questions to you, sir. Don't need to unpack them entirely. This is just for context setting for the rest of the podcast. Question number 1. How will Imran Khan's career be remembered in 3 sentences up till this point?
Success, then jail, and shaking up the military establishment like no one in Pakistan has ever done.
Okay. We're going to break down Imran Khan's whole tenure a lot. In short, do you think that the greatest chunk of his legacy is yet to be created?
I think his legacy has been he has been a terrible administrator, but I think his legacy has been that he has shaken the pillars of power in Pakistan like no one before him. That I think is going to be his truest legacy. He might actually betray that legacy if he comes back to power by sucking up to the army once again. But if he doesn't, then he would have delivered a solid blow for civilian supremacy in Pakistan.
What are 4 dirty truths about the Pakistani military?
Corrupt, quite brainless, keep doing the same thing over and over again, thinking the results will be different, and they are very brutal.
Just for the sake of contrast, could you give me 4 beautiful aspects about Pakistan?
Uh, very difficult to find anything beautiful right now. Because look, I must admit I have a certain bias now. Bias because I've lost friends to terrorism sponsored by Pakistanis, uh, and bias because of what has been happening in Pakistan over so many years, what they've done to their own people. But yes, there is a certain old world charm left in Pakistan, in the sense you don't see it in India anymore. Nobody has the time. People are much busier in India. So you see a certain amount of old world charm. You see a certain amount of hospitality, which is actually a very Punjab centric, North India centric kind of a thing. Uh, so there is that aspect of it. I really can't think of anything else.
In order to understand the average Pakistani better, it's a bit of a hypothetical question. If you take the average Pakistani and place them in Mumbai, Delhi, or Bangalore, what do you think are 3 thoughts that would appear in their mind?
I think they would see India's march ahead. That is one. I think they would be bewildered by the number of Hindus they see around them and realizing that Hindus don't have horns on their head. And many of the stereotypes that they had been taught about non Muslims or Hindus in particular are utterly false. And third thing which they'll see is that many of the propaganda, much of the propaganda that had been spread about India, that all Muslims are in ghettos, all Muslims are being butchered in India, I think they will realize that that's not true.
Okay. Getting back into the geopolitics of the times that we live in, what are 4 truths that the average young person from a worldwide perspective should know about Balochistan? It's a very hot topic in our region right now. I know I'm asking you a very complex question and we'll dive into the details, but as of now, just the context.
I think the 4 truths are that it's a very secular society, despite being very conservative, a very secular society. One place where Hindus were by and large kept safe, never, no pogroms against them. Uh, so, one is that. Second, a brutalized society, a society which has been brutalized by the Pakistani state over 8 decades. Uh, Promises made and promises broken with them. The third thing is very committed to the Baloch cause, and we see that play out both in the political as well as in the militant domains. We are seeing that happen. And the fourth is that it's a society whose riches or a land whose riches have been stolen by the Punjabis in Pakistan for their benefit, giving very little to Balochistan. And I'll just add one sentence to it. Can you imagine that gas being taken out from a particular place and being delivered thousands of kilometers away in Lahore, but not being given to the people who live in that area, and they having to wait for 30, 40 years before the first gas is supplied to them? That is the kind of exploitation that has been done in Balochistan, which is what is resulting in the kind of upsurge we are seeing today.
Last couple of questions from the pace round. They're both about the Pakistani military. The first question is 5 topics that are being actively discussed amongst the higher ups of the Pakistani military, according to you, and you dedicate your life to studying everything that's happening in Pakistan.
I think India is always going to be discussed by them, right? Second, I think they are really bothered about Imran Khan. They don't know, the current lot of leaders don't know how to handle Imran Khan. They've tried various things, they've failed. Third, I think they're seriously worried about the Afghanistan situation and all the Taliban movement that is impacting upon Pakistan. Fourth, they are terrified about what's happening in Balochistan, and they are not able to understand how the hell to manage it. And in that Imran Khan thing, I'll also add that they are losing their core constituency in Punjab, which gives the bulk of the people into the Pakistan army. So that's four. And the fifth is, of course, they are seriously worried about the economic situation in Pakistan, because without the economy, you don't get the budgets and you have nothing left. So I think these are probably the five issues that would be of most concern to them right now.
Gotcha. One final question, which is that if we try personifying the Pakistani military as one person, how would that person look back at their own life? And what are the 4 mistakes they would list out? I'm talking about how the military looks at itself.
The military looks at itself as the savior of Pakistan, without realizing that they have become the biggest obstacle to Pakistan's stability and Pakistan's growth as a nation. As a polity, they have stunted the politics of Pakistan, so it's called a bonsai democracy. The moment democracy starts getting some roots, they chop it off. That's one legacy which the Pakistan army has. They have looted the state like nobody else, but they think they have actually defended the state. They are quite brainless because, look, army guys are trained to do certain things. They're not trained to be economists, they're not trained to be sociologists, but they try and do everything and they mess it up. Number four, I think they will always remember what they've done in Bangladesh, the kind of genocide they committed out there, which led to the breakup of their country. But they haven't learned anything from that. And they still think that the genocide they did in Bangladesh, had they done that genocide much better, Pakistan would still not have been broken. Which is what they are now trying to do in Balochistan, which is going to be their fifth mistake, that you are going to carry out another genocide in Balochistan. And that, I think, so if somebody is looking back over the years, they will see that. But I think they will also see that how the Pakistan army has now become the Pakistani state. Normally India has an army, but nobody sees, I don't know if you can even name the general in India today, right? Nobody can name the generals in India. In Pakistan, everybody can name them. So the army has now become the state. The judiciary, the civilian politicians, the media, you name the institution or the organization or any aspect of life, they've all become subservient to the army. So it's like a Praetorian guard, which is not even able to guard the country properly.
Gotcha. Thought I was going to end the pace round, but I have one key question before we move into the longer format of question and answers. The final question is about China and how China is viewing Pakistan in 2025. Could you explain this in 3 thought tangents?
I think China is seriously concerned about the stability in Pakistan. I think they've given up on the money they have spent in Pakistan. I don't think they're going to get returns on that, number one. Number two, they still see some strategic value in Pakistan. One, it's a dog that keeps snapping at India's heel. So that's useful. So it encircles India. Secondly, they look at Pakistan as an important ally, maybe one of their few friends in this region, which gives them a kind of a toehold into the Middle East. That's the second thing which they look at. And the third thing they look at is in Pakistan, that maybe when they go ahead, maybe in the future, if Pakistan was to stabilize, it could get some kind of economic value. But for now, they have lost whatever money they have spent out there, and they're not spending any more money. But so I think the economic side for now is gone. The political and the strategic side is alive. But I think the Chinese are seriously concerned about Pakistan's stability. Pakistan, on the other hand, continues to look at China as a sugar daddy. They first had a sugar daddy in the US. Now they are looking at a sugar daddy in China. So, like some Pakistani once told me, Pakistan has become a concubine state. It's like a concubine of the Chinese.
Okay. Very direct inputs you have, sir.
No, it's a fact. This is not my take on it. This is some Pakistani who once told me this, and I tend to agree with him because it's all about how much money can you give me. You know, in Pakistan they say, "Mainu note vikha, mera mood bana." So it's like the same thing with them.
Translate that to English.
Can you
Show
show me the money?
and fix my mood.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Ran a lot of thought experiments in order to prepare for this podcast. And I tried asking ChatGPT to predict Pakistan's 5-year future and 10-year future. All I got was an unstable future. That's the fixed outcome. Everything else is slow economic growth, etc., etc. Now, that's one aspect of my preparation for this podcast. The other aspect of preparation is the content creators, the artists I meet through the course of the podcast. No one would say this on camera, but even if you go to Dubai and you speak to the blue collar Pakistani workers, the laborers there, some of the people who are driving the taxis, they'll all tell you that, hey, my family is in a good economic condition because I'm in Dubai or Abu Dhabi and I'm able to send money back. I would not have been able to take care of my family if I was working in Pakistan. That's the economic truth of the country. And this is a unanimous input I get from every Pakistani I
There's
meet.
a lot of despondency.
Yeah. In your eyes, this is the long-term effect of the military being the actual showrunners in the country.
In large part. Because the military has instilled a level of instability in the country. See, the military thinks that I have made Pakistan stable. If it was not for me, Pakistan would have disintegrated, right? That's the military's line. But what has the military done? Every 2 or 3 years, it conspires against whichever government has been elected by the people. It has now, in the last election, for example, in 2024, Imran Khan had won the election despite all odds, okay? And I don't think anybody really expected him to win an election. Now, he wins an election, and yet you change the election results in the night. In the dark of the night, you change the election results. People who did not win more than 15, 20 seats, you gave them 80 seats and you put them in government. People like Shahbaz Sharif and all. They had lost the election, right? You've made them in government. Now, they have no legitimacy. This is not the first time they've done something like this. So they have destabilized government after government. They've brought in their favorites. As a result, there is so much political uncertainty in Pakistan that, why would anybody want to invest in a country like that? Then they have played around with terrorism, thinking that jihadism is a great tool for foreign policy. Okay? You played with that. You messed around with the Americans when they were in Afghanistan. You allowed this Taliban monster to be recreated. Now it's coming back to haunt you. Okay? You allowed guns to be spread in the country. Now there is a massive law and order problem. If you look at the street crime statistics in Pakistan, they've gone through the roof. Part of it is because there are no economic opportunities left, right? Everything which you can look at, you can trace it back to certain policies that the army brought in and the interference of the army in Pakistan's political life, in economic life. Today, now they're making economic policy. And what is the economic policy they are making? And I'll just give you this one example. They've decided that they're going to go in for corporate farming, which means that they will have millions of acres of land which they will irrigate, which water they don't have. Okay? They'll build canals to bring water into that desert area and irrigate millions of acres of land in Punjab to then supply food to Saudi Arabia, UAE, China. That's corporate farming model. All the land will be controlled by the army. Those organizations which they have formed are controlled by the army. So the civilians are out. Nobody is going to be allowed in. And Sindh is up in arms because they say you have no water. You are going to take our share of water. You are going to make Sindh into a desert to make the desert in Punjab green. Now, this is, on the face of it, it is a disastrous thing to do. And yet the Pakistan army is doing it. And why are they doing it? Because they think this will make Pakistan great again. So, all the problems in Pakistan in one way or another can be traced back to the army's interference in political life in Pakistan.
We've had countless economists on the show speak about India's economic history, and the one truth I've learned is that an economist will feel a bunch of things in theory based on their own life's work, but you never know about the practical aspect of how those theories play out with your own population, with your own geography, until those theories are turned into laws and real world changes.
Ranveer, this is what happens. A technocrat is a person who might be an expert in his field, but there are a lot of other things. So, what does a politician do? What is a politician's job? He's supposed to have basic common sense and an ear to the ground of what will work and what will not work, what will be acceptable to people and what will not be acceptable to people. Now, the most elegant economic theory will be a flop if it's not acceptable to the people. If people don't have ownership of a theory, it will not be acceptable to them. You can't have that policy in place. So you have to have policy in place which people can relate to. So an economist will come out with policies. A politician's job is to fine tune those policies to make them acceptable. An army guy, when he acts as the politician, he is not trained to be a politician. His brain is not wired either by training or by experience to behave like a politician. You can do that low cunning kind of a thing. But, there is a lot more which you need to do to make policies acceptable, to sell them to people, to give them ownership. The army is not equipped to do that.
Yeah, I'm trying to see all this from an anthropological perspective in terms of what has gone wrong on a human level. Effectively, what are countries? If we see it from an ancient man perspective, these are tribes. And the leadership is running the tribe. Now, the leadership in our country is a combination of the bureaucracy, the politicians, the government, etc. All these people are trained along the individual pathways of life. In Pakistan, when a young person is trying to get into the military, perhaps there's an element of, hey, I actually might be in administration at the age of 50 or 60. That's a reality.
You're becoming part of the ruling class.
But is this known by the general population? Like, the masses understand that the military runs the country.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
How are they okay with it?
They're not okay with it. But what is the choice they have? In the last couple of years, we have seen a massive reaction develop. So in Punjab, there is the unwashed masses who probably did not have a very high opinion of the army, but still supported the army. But the real support of the army came from the upper middle class, the well-heeled people in Punjab, the Lahori elite as they are called. Now these are doctors, judges, these are businessmen, these are people who are in the bureaucracy, these are professionals, chartered accountants, the really well-heeled people of society. Today, what you are seeing is that across the board in Punjab, there is a lot of abuse being heaped on the army, and the army is being called out for all the problems it has created in Pakistan. Okay, it is being challenged. Now, what the army is doing is they're trying to suppress those voices. They're bringing in all kinds of draconian laws to suppress anybody who says anything which is remotely against the army. They're not going to succeed because things are reaching a point where there's a lot of disgust for the army. Now, of course, the army will trot out some people from the media and other organizations to propagate that the army is the savior of Pakistan, the valiant sons of Pakistan who are fighting against the infidel enemy who is trying to sabotage Pakistan, undo Pakistan. All that propaganda is going on. Nobody is buying it. Right? Nobody is buying it. Not in the other provinces, not, in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Balochistan, Sindh. Nobody is buying it. Not even in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Even in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir today, the army is being pilloried. And most of all, it's being pilloried in the Punjab. So, like I said earlier, for them, the image problem which they now suffer from is probably the most debilitating crisis they face.
Okay. If you were the chief of the Pakistani military, what are 4 changes you would bring about?
Nobody would make me chief of Pakistan military.
Just hypothetical.
I would probably be court-martialed by the time I reached the level of captain because I would question many things. But look, if I was the chief of the Pakistan army, I think what I would do is I would withdraw the army from politics. And everything which I'm telling you is mission impossible. It's not going to happen because the Pakistan army is not wired like that. You know, when you think you are the ruling class, you are not wired to let go of power. But if in an ideal world, if something was to happen, the Pakistan army should not interfere in the politics of Pakistan. They should not play the kind of games they've been playing. Let politics play its role in Pakistan. That's number one. Number two, they should encourage. Now, again, this is contradictory because at one level I'm saying, you know, don't interfere in politics, but at another level I'm going to say take certain political initiatives. And what are the political initiatives? Now, one of the problems in Balochistan, for example, is of missing people. What the Pakistan army does is, because they want to quell the Baloch rebellion, they go into universities, they go into people's houses, they pick up anybody who they suspect of siding with the separatists in Balochistan, the freedom fighters, and they pick them up. So there is completely illegal abductions of people are taking place. These are people, and many of them are students in Punjab University, in Karachi, in other universities. And as young people, yeah, an 18, 20-year-old kid will have a lot of passion. You know, when mess discussions are taking place, there are students who are saying things which only students will say, you know, because they don't probably know better or they feel very strongly about something. Nobody reaches out to those kids and tries to explain to them anything. But what they do is they identify those people, they pick up those kids, and then they are disappeared. Now, what happens to them is that they are tortured, and then sometimes they are released, sometimes they are never released, sometimes you discover their dead bodies thrown on the wayside. So, all kinds of brutalities are visited upon these people.
This aspect of torture has been reported upon?
Yeah, all the time. You know, this is one of the reasons why, if you've heard of this lady, Maharang Baloch, this is the biggest cause in Balochistan right now. This thing called the disappeared people, the enforced disappearances that are taking place. And all of these are done by Pakistan security forces. Look, if I think you have done something wrong, you have done a treasonous act, you are a terrorist, for example, then I should arrest you, produce you before a court, file a charge sheet against you, and then hang you. I don't care, right? If you've done something wrong, then of course, punishment must be delivered. But I just can't pick you up and just, you know, arbitrarily, shoot you or hang you or torture you without any evidence whatsoever, without any legal process. The third thing the Pakistan army needs to do is they really need to start dismantling that entire infrastructure of terror and of these Islamist mafias which they have funded. And I'm not just talking about the Lashkar-e-Taibas and the Jaish-e-Mohammeds, which they have unleashed against India, but many of the other groups which they unleash against their political opponents inside Pakistan. For example, there is this organization called the Tehreek-e-Labbaik Pakistan. It's a Barelvi Muslim organization used as a counter force against the Deobandi Muslims who were mostly terrorists. So this is a counter force so this kind of games which the Pakistan army has been playing has undermined law and order in Pakistan and destroyed the civic peace. They need to desist from it. And last but not the least, they need to start making peace with their neighbors. These irredentist claims they have, Kashmir or on parts of Afghanistan, or trying to make Afghanistan a kind of a fifth province without not de jure but de facto. That Afghanistan must be under our thumb, Afghanistan must do whatever we ask them to do. That kind of nonsense needs to stop. So these multiple jihads that they have been waging, they need to stop that. So if I was the army chief, I would do these 4 things. But I'm not going to be the army chief, and I can assure you that the army chief of Pakistan will not listen to any sensible advice.
This podcast is probably going to reach a lot of members of the Pakistan.
But it won't. It could reach anywhere, but it's not going to filter down that ossified military mind in Pakistan. So it's not going to happen, but yeah.
Because on a human level, there's too much yes man energy.
Yeah, it's partly because there's too much yes man energy, and it's partly because at a human level again, you know, when you become the chief of the Pakistan army or you become a general in the Pakistan army, there's so much of sucking up which is happening all over the place that you are in a completely different mind frame then, and you think you are the repository of all the wisdom in the world, and that you can do whatever you want to do because everything is, you just need to wave that malaka cane which they hold, just need to wave it around and things will fall in place. It's not a fucking magic wand, right? They need to understand that.
There's also obviously a lot of money to be made
Of course.
because with power comes opportunity for money. I think again on a human level, that's the core aspect of why the army is not taking a step back from
So
administration.
let me give you an example. So there was this friend of mine, a Pakistani, one of the most solid researchers on terrorism. And I'm talking about 10, 12 years back. So he'd come to India and he wanted to meet a retired Major General. I can name him, Afsar Karim. He is no longer alive, but a fine gentleman. He wanted to meet him and talk about, India's anti-insurgency, anti-terror operations, experiences. So I took this guy to meet the general, and we went to this place called Noida. And while I was looking around for his house, which was in these army, one of those army welfare housing things, an apartment complex, this guy said, "Are you sure you're in the right place?" I said, "Of course I am in the right place." He says, "You mean to say a general is living out here in these flats?" I said, "Yeah." So we went to the general's house, we rang the bell, and General Afsar Karim, he himself opened the door and he welcomed us in. And this guy was shocked. Then, anyways, he had a conversation for an hour or two. And then when he started walking out, he couldn't hold back. And he said, "General Saab, I want to say something to you, but I hope you don't take it in the wrong spirit." So the general said, "No, no, please go ahead, whatever you want to say." He says, "The house you stay in, even a captain of the Pakistan army will not stay in a house like this." So the general started laughing and he says, "Well, that's because I'm a soldier. In Pakistan, they are rulers." So that's the difference between the two armies, in the ethos of the army, the way they think, the way they operate, uh, the fact that, they understand in India that they are under a civilian control. In Pakistan, they are in charge. That's one. Secondly, the amount of monies they make legally. Now, apparently, when a general retires, he is given something like 100 or maybe 200 acres of land, right? And it goes down the chain. At every rank, there are plots given to these guys at very subsidized rates. One is a commercial plot, one is a residential plot. So very often they will keep that and then they sell it and then move into something bigger. And one estimate is that by the time a general retires, he's worth something like 100 crores at least, right? This is the legal money. And illegally, what happens is that if you go as the corps commander in Karachi, right? So you are the boss in Sindh now. Karachi is like the Bombay of Pakistan. So you are out there. So you will have all these shady businessmen, big guys, but they deal in the stock market in Pakistan. And the stock market in Pakistan, from what I have learned, is about 200,000 people who invest in the stock market. So it's a very, very shallow market, right? So you will have these big daddies of the stock market. It's all a kind of a collusion, who will come to the general and then tell him, "Ki General Saab, you invest in the stock market through me." Okay? So the general will hem and haw, but this guy will say, "No, no, you invest, you wait and see." So he will give him 5 lakhs of rupees. 2-3 weeks later, this guy will come back, give him 50 lakhs. "See, General Saab, this is the amount of money I've helped you make." And by the time the general goes from there, he's worth a few crores, right? Basically, it's bribery. Because once you've done that, the general is beholden to you and he does whatever you ask him to do. That's the second. So there are various ways and means. Pakistani generals, for example, in Balochistan have been involved in smuggling. They've been involved in drug running. They've been involved in gun running. They've been involved in extortion networks, kidnapping networks. They've been involved in all of this, right? Big smuggling, this thing. Sometimes they've actually been caught and punished also. So when you hold that much power with zero accountability, that no judge in Pakistan can come after you, no government in Pakistan has the balls to come after you, right? Nobody in Pakistan can even say a word. Damn, they're journalists who pretend to be, upholders of fresh freedom and freedom of speech. You will never hear them talk about Pakistan army. They will use euphemisms. रियासत रियासत के इदारे, राइट? वो जिनका नाम नहीं लिया जा सकता. Now everybody knows they're talking about the army, but they will never say army. They will never say such and such general, or they will never say such and such office in this particular thing. So they are that terrified, and probably that compromised, that they will not even say it. So when you have a situation like that, then nobody is going to stand up against you. So yes, there is the yes man culture, and yes, there is this megalomania which comes in because of the kind of power you enjoy.
So I think the one key factor to know is that geographically it's the biggest state in Pakistan,
Yes.
bordered by both Iran and Afghanistan, has a big coastline as well.
Yes.
Very rich in terms of natural resources.
Yes.
But those natural resources have been sucked out over the years and
Yes.
used to fuel mainly Punjab, but also the rest of the country.
And Karachi and these places.
While
Pakistan proper, as a Pakistani analyst calls it.
Okay.
In the sense that this is not really Pakistan in that sense.
And effectively, the people of Balochistan are primarily of tribal cultures.
Okay, so you have to understand, if you're talking about the geography of Balochistan, you have to also understand that the northern part of Balochistan in the British days used to be called British Balochistan. That is predominantly Pashtun populated. There are not many Baloch living out there as an ethnic group. The Baloch are mostly in some parts of northeast Balochistan, and then you come down. The central part of Balochistan is mostly tribal. There are big tribes like the Murris, the Mengals, the Maxis, these kind of guys. And then when you come down to the southern belt, the coastal belt, which is called the Makran belt, that is the tribal. There are still tribes out there, but they don't have the same tribal structure which is there in the central and the northeastern parts of Balochistan. So you have to understand, when you talk about the geography, you have to talk about the demographic geography in that context.
Sure. Okay. It's also such a big coastline there.
Yeah.
So of geopolitical importance.
Yeah, because if you look at the coast, or the port of Gwadar, or some of the other ports where even the Pakistanis have built some naval bases, it is virtually on the mouth of the Persian Gulf. And what is the importance of the Persian Gulf is that the entire oil trade from Saudi Arabia and from Iraq and Iran flows through the Persian Gulf, right? So if you are straddling the Persian Gulf, you are in a position to control that entire energy flows out of Persian Gulf. So it's a very vital geography.
Okay. You enjoy history in general?
Generally.
British occupied India, okay, which is right from our northeast up till Balochistan. Why did it stop at that border? I'm assuming it was because of Ahmad Shah Abdali's Afghan empire.
No, they went into Afghanistan. They tried to occupy Afghanistan. In fact, they had captured Afghanistan, Kabul. They had to fight 3 wars. And they would capture. So look, the problem with Afghanistan is that it's easy to go in and capture the place, but it's impossible to retain it. Subsequently, now this is what everybody, when historical myth making takes place, everybody says that the Afghans, expelled the British. Yes, they did. But then what did the British do? They came back, they regrouped, and then they attacked Afghanistan again from 2 or 3 directions. And they did what the British always used to do. There was no problem in killing as many people as you wanted to kill. So they carried out these massive raids. They razed villages, towns, and they made their point, But they didn't retain Afghanistan. What they did was they allowed a government of the Afghans, whatever, whoever wanted to, they didn't meddle in that. So they came back. Again, it happened in the 1880s, 1890s, and then again in the 1920s. So there were 3 Afghan wars which were fought. It was just the kind of terrain and the kind of people there are in Afghanistan. And it's not worth it, right? What was the colonial model? The colonial model was that you go into a place, you occupy it, and then you exploit it for economic benefit. The Indian colonies otherwise paid for themselves. India became the jewel, like somebody says, that London is an active crime scene because all the wealth they looted from India is, on display in London. Now that that wealth has run out, London is a dump, right? But this is what it was. So Afghanistan really had no economic benefit for the colonial master. And the British, being the traders that they are, they understood it. So what did they do? Their primary focus was that the Russians further up were coming down south. So then they decided that it is better to have the Afghans as a buffer rather than going into Afghanistan and directly confronting not only the Afghans, but also the Russians. So then they had a certain system where they would subsidize the Afghan kings and, they had that kind of a... So they evolved a system like that, which survived for about 100, 150 years until 9/11, when that system broke down. And once that system has broken down, there is no real new system put in place. So everything is up in the air and there is chaos. So that was Afghanistan. On the other side was Iran. So there were problems with Iran as well. But finally, the British got into a deal with the Iranian, the Persian kings, and you had what is, I think it's called the Goldsmith Line. So they drew that line, which is the border between what is Balochistan now, or what is Pakistan and Balochistan, and what is Iran. And Balochistan straddles 3 countries, the Baloch lands as they are. So Baloch are in the sense the Kurds of the subcontinent.
Wow.
Okay. So the Kurds, for example, are in Iran, they are in Iraq, they are in Syria. Okay. And they are in Turkey. They're spread in 4 countries. The Baloch similarly are in Afghanistan. They are in Iran, the eastern part of Iran, which straddles Balochistan, and of course in Balochistan. So that is the kind of, the demographic geography, political geography that where Balochistan is located.
Okay. And the reason I asked you all this about Afghan history and Iran is to lead to a chapter on the BLA. Is it important to mention this timeline of history when talking about the 2025 context?
Look, you cannot divorce history from what is happening, especially because that history was never reconciled. If you don't reconcile to history, then those historical problems will erupt in this day and age. Now, which is what I keep telling people, that look, we are looking at, suddenly a train is hijacked with 400 people. It makes news around the world. But that's not the only thing which has happened. And that was not the first thing which has happened, right? It's been continuing. This latest insurgency is already 25 years old. But now it has reached a kind of a point where it has suddenly become really serious and it is being noticed around the world because of the ferocity and the audacity of the attacks that are taking place.
You want to also mention the China-Pakistan economic corridor?
Yeah, of course, because that is, see, again, one of the fundamental grievances, apart from this grievance about the brutality of the Pakistani state, the other major grievance is the one of resources and how Balochistan's resources are taken out and used not for the benefit of the Baloch, but for other people's benefit. So the China-Pakistan economic corridor also falls in that grievance
context.
So the Chinese are coming in, they are investing money out there, and the Baloch are not stakeholders in what is happening because there are no jobs for them. And there are no jobs for them because the Pakistanis say, you are not skilled enough to work out here. Okay. okay, they form this port in Gwadar. Gwadar is a port now. The Chinese have invested tons of money. And this economic corridor which runs is basically a network of roads and all sorts of other projects like electricity plants. And they're supposed to build special economic zones and, all of that. But for now, it is basically a road network which comes all the way from the western part of China into Punjab and then on to Balochistan into Gwadar, right? So there is this road network. And the idea is that this corridor will, in a sense, lead to one, the development of Western China by providing it access to sea. Because otherwise, Western China, they have to travel all the way to the eastern seaboard to transport whatever they're manufacturing, right? Now, this way, they get an access to sea, which is a much shorter access. They get an access to sea. Now, the Chinese have invested money. They've formed this port. But what has happened in that port? The Baloch are not given jobs. The Chinese live in these enclosures, partly for security reasons and partly for racist reasons. They live in these enclosed areas. The local community has no stake in what is happening in Gwadar. The local community was mostly fishermen. You have blocked their access to the sea because of the kind of port development projects you have undertaken. Number one. Number two, you have allowed Chinese fishing trawlers to come in who have started, carrying out a large scale fishing, which means that the Baloch fishermen who still use mostly traditional methods have to go deeper into the sea to catch their fish. So there are huge resentments which are building up, and people are saying that, look, this is our land, our area. You have given it to the Chinese, and we are getting nothing in return. No jobs for us, nothing for us.
Yeah, to pause it a little bit here, it's basically the Pakistan military cracking a deal with Chinese officials saying, hey, by the way, you can use our
Actually, this
coastline.
deal was not cracked by the Pakistan military.
Oh, really?
It was done by Nawaz Sharif and company. Originally, Asif Zardari claims that he is the guy who initiated it. But then Nawaz Sharif, when he came into power in 2013, went ahead and signed all the contracts and other stuff. Everybody has made money out of it except the Baloch. The Chinese are making money hand over fist. The Pakistanis have apparently made money through underhand deals, right? The guys who got shortchanged in the process are the Baloch. So this has added to the grievance. And they see the Chinese, they have two resentments against the Chinese. One, that you are supporting our oppressors, the Punjabis of Pakistan, who are ruling over us. You are their biggest supporter. So we have to target you. Okay, that is one. The second is, you, in partnership with them, are also exploiting us and stealing our resources. You set up mining projects out here. You take out all the resources from here. What is our share? 2% in a mining project. Why? It is mines on my land. You have a 50% stake. Somebody else has a 48% stake. I get 2%. Why? So, those various grievances have all started adding up and have now, put the Chinese in the crosshairs of the Baloch.
Are we looking at a possible civil war in Pakistan?
Look, it's difficult to say what the future trajectory is going to be. Okay. A lot of people have this thing, Pakistan will break up in 4 parts. Now, I don't know where this 4 parts thing comes up from. It could break up in 20. It could not break up at all. It could simply, have a kind of an implosion where everybody is fighting everybody else, and you have these fiefdoms within, something like a Somalia. If you look at what's happening out there, that you have some Puntland and you have Somaliland and you have various other places. It's a mishmash. It's impossible to predict how things, when the cookie crumbles, how it's going to crumble, right? It's just not possible. You can make projections and make some guesses, but nobody really knows. I don't know. Maybe what's happening in Balochistan is also already a kind of a civil war. You can call it an insurgency, but you can call it a civil war. What's happening in the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, where the TTP guys are coming in a big way. Their footprint is constantly expanding. They initially started in some tribal districts. Then they moved into the main districts. South KP, South Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province, is virtually now a no-go area. If you hear of politicians from that region who say that, look, once evening descends and night falls, the state ceases to exist. There is no police, there is nothing, right? In Balochistan, I think yesterday or day before, they've passed an order that highways will be closed at night. Now, if you lose control over highways, you've lost control. If you don't control your highways, if you don't control your roads, you don't control the damn country, right? So that is already a situation which is there. Now, again, it's be highly premature to say that the Baloch are going to be winning their independence in 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. I can't predict that.
What is even winning independence in the modern day? How do you win independence?
See, how you win independence is that the power that was ruling over you no longer rules over you, right? Now, this can happen within a particular country, in the framework of a particular country, that you have sufficient autonomy and that province can decide things for its own, in its own interest, in its own way. Or you can say that I have nothing to do with this damn country. Okay? I am a completely independent, sovereign entity and I will call my own shots. I will decide how my resources are going to be used. Pakistan or some Punjabi sitting in Lahore or Islamabad is not going to decide that for me. That is the definition of independence.
But unlikely.
Look, it's a long shot right now. I think the freedom struggle in Balochistan has reached a point where not many people imagined it would reach. Now, let me give you a couple of, hard truths. One is that, remember, Balochistan might be 45% of Pakistan's land mass, but it's only about 5% of Pakistan's population. Okay? But that 5% is totally alienated from Pakistan. But practically and politically, they are not. Now, a couple of things are likely to happen. Pakistan is not going to adopt a generous approach and reach out to the Baloch to try and solve the matter. They will use brute force, which will lead to further reaction. That is, I think, a given. Secondly, what the Pakistanis are going to do is they're going to try and play their politics. They already have this crook called Sarfaraz Bukti as the chief minister, a man who's been known to be involved with death squads and all kinds of other nefarious things. He has the blessings of that other crook, Asif Zardari, and his son, Bilawal Bhutto. He has their blessings. He is from their party right now. He keeps switching parties. So politically, I don't see any initiative being taken place. Militarily, they're going to try and crush the Baloch, but the Baloch are likely to fight back. So one is that is a given. Now, if all other things were the same, you could very easily predict that the Pakistan army will crush them. But all other things are not the same. One, this is no longer an insurgency or a movement limited to a few districts. It's spread across the province among the Baloch people, apart from, Quislings like Sarfaraz Bukti and company. The second is that Balochistan is not the only insurgency that is taking place. You have another insurgency up north with the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan. You have problems emerging in Sindh. And I don't see the Pakistan army saying that we will give up, our greed for more land in Cholistan, that desert, which I said they're building canals, and they're going to make Sindh into a desert to green Punjab. So Sindh is going to go up in flames. And there has been a kind of a separatist movement in Sindh for the longest. Okay.
For similar reasons?
Partly for similar reasons, partly because they want their own identity. But also remember that the Baloch organizations, militant organizations, just about 4 weeks back, had announced that 4 groups were coming together under a common platform. And it was called the BRAS, BRAS. And one of the groups is a Sindhi group, a Sindhi militant group, right? So they are making common cause out there. You already have a weak economy, and you have troubles in POK, both the Gilgit-Baltistan and POJK. You have problems in both these regions. A lot of which is not making the news, but those problems are real and they are massive. So you have that kind of a situation. So I think it's a legitimate question to ask, how long does a state hold on? It's an army or a security force which is losing close to 10, 15, maybe 20 people a day. Those are the estimates. How long can they sustain this? So now, how do you get freedom? You either get freedom because you are so strong that you are able to snatch it from the guy who's occupying you, or your occupier becomes so weak that he can no longer keep his control over you. I don't know how the cookie is going to crumble, but I don't rule it out anymore.
Okay. To summarize this chapter.
वो तू कर.
Please correct me if I'm saying something that's off. First point, it's unpredictable.
Yeah.
But it's getting worse.
Yes.
That's all one can say, right?
Yes.
Second point, Pakistan seems to be in a place where multiple, in fact, all its states other than Punjab seem to have tensions brewing, and the local population feeling that they are not given the importance by the government.
I'll just add a caveat to it. Even in Punjab, the controlling authority, which is the Pakistan Army, is no longer unquestioned like it used to be. So there is a problem out there as well.
Third, the BLA specifically, the Balochistan Liberation Army, has been around for a while, but they seem to have become more organized and more fiery in the last 5 years or so.
Absolutely.
Next point, all this is happening in the middle of economic crisis. So the army has to actually deal with military operations all over the country, but because they've also taken up the role of managing the country, perhaps it's too many plates to balance.
Absolutely.
I'm sure that leads to its own set
and
of
not
problems.
enough brains to manage it.
Yeah. And finally, I think the average Pakistani, at least it seems to me, that the average Pakistani is losing faith in the government, and they're able to see through what's happening, which is why there is an exodus that's happening from Pakistan. Lots of people are leaving the country.
And to that, onto the last point, anybody with an option to go abroad is running away, number one. Number two, big business is also not investing money in Pakistan. So when you are asking for foreign investment to come into Pakistan, you should at least have the local guy also wanting to invest his money. You can't say that I want investment from Japan in India, but no Indian businessman is going to invest in India. Then no Japanese is also going to invest in India, right? It's the same thing in Pakistan. They are trying to get people from outside to invest in Pakistan. But what about the Pakistani investor? Is he ready to invest? Have you fixed the problems which have spooked investors inside Pakistan? You haven't. So how is that investment going to come? So if no investment is going to come, where is the growth going to take place? If growth does not take place, then how do you employ people? How do you give jobs to people? And if you don't give jobs to people, people who are now getting educated, where do they go? They have to go abroad. QED.
It's a good summary of this chapter, I feel.
I guess so.
I thought we'd do an entire chapter on Imran Khan, but perhaps we'll just touch upon it.
Okay.
Was he that one Pakistani who put his hand up in the middle of all this modern history that's happening? Did he actually have good intentions, according to you, with the country?
Yeah, look, I think he was a bit of a megalomaniac. He might have had good intentions, but I think he was also a megalomaniac.
When I speak to Pakistanis about Imran Khan, it's a very polarized reaction.
Yeah, obviously, because either you are an Imran lover, right, and a big time one, and then you don't want to listen to anything else, or you are an Imran hater, and again a big time one. So yeah, there is no middle ground where you say that you can objectively analyze the guy. So I'm not particularly fond of him, but purely as an outsider, I can analyze him. So I would say that, look, he is a megalomaniac. He is a very vicious, very vindictive man. He's not particularly intelligent, but I think he has shown a kind of political cunning which not many Pakistani politicians I will give. And most importantly, he has shown a kind of, I don't know what you want to call it, obstinateness. You want to call it, I don't know. I don't have the word for it. But he has shown a kind of a defiance, you know, or a single mindedness, which I don't think anybody expected him to have. Okay, so that is something which I don't think anybody even factored in. When they put him in jail, they thought he'll break. And I'll be very honest with you, Ranveer, I remember in 2007, I was in Pakistan. Musharraf was just imposing his second coup. I was there at that point of time. And there I happened to attend a dinner where there were people, I don't have the permission to name them, but one of Imran Khan's cousins, some of his close associates, all these people, we were at a dinner together. And out there was this talk going on that Imran had run away from home, escaped arrest, and he was in hiding. And there was this talk that he is now thinking of surrendering to Musharraf. Uh, and then what happened was that he surrendered. They put him in jail. And within 4 or 5 days, apparently, he started crying and stuff like that. He couldn't handle jail and they let him out. And he kept quiet after that. So I never expected him. This was my experience of the guy. I didn't think he will be able to handle jail. I'll be very honest with you. He has surprised everybody by being in jail, by taking on the Pakistan army like nobody in the Pakistani system has ever done, right? And he has got public support. I don't think anybody expected that to happen. So as a prime minister, he was very vindictive, he was very vicious, and he was very vacuous. You know, with the kind of plans he was coming up with, his administration sucked. He was terrible. In fact, in many things, he is responsible for many of Pakistan's economic problems. He their relations with many of their important countries like Saudi Arabia, like the Chinese, many of their important relationships he upon. So yeah, you know, he did all of that. But on the political side, he managed to get this cult following, which is remarkable, right? And it is much more now than a cult because it's there everywhere. So, you know, the way you look at him is when you look at his administrative skills, he sucks. When you look at what he has managed to achieve in politics, remarkable. I know this. As long as Asim Munir is the chief of army in Pakistan, I don't see a future for Imran. But I don't see Asim Munir staying forever. So, frankly, the Pakistan army has to decide, can they live with Imran Khan or not? Because they are not able to manage on their own now. So that is their big dilemma. They can't manage on their own. They can't let Imran Khan out because they don't want to work under him because he is going to fix them like nobody else has. That's the fear, probably a real fear. And that's where things lie.
Has the PM of Pakistan traditionally been a puppet of the military?
Not all of them. No one as much as this guy, Shahbaz Sharif. Shahbaz Sharif is a complete rubber stamp. But his brother wasn't exactly a pushover. In fact, he tried to push the envelope with the army. Many of the other prime ministers in Pakistan, especially from People's Party, they were they were ever ready to suck up to the army. In fact, you had this guy, Yusuf Raza Gilani, who was the prime minister in 2008, who became prime minister after that election. And he's the kind of a guy who would tell the army that, look, we are here to serve you. You tell us what you want. We'll be more than ready to do what you want to do. They hold no real power. Maximum the power they hold is at the local level. That, you can be the big boss in your local area. The SHO will be at your beck and call.
Okay.
There is some local rival, in your neighborhood you want to fix. You can use the state power to fix him. But can you do anything beyond that? Can you make policy? Can you, take politics in a direction which takes Pakistan away from the kind of hole it has dug itself in? out of that hole into a different direction. You can't do that. So that power is only for self-aggrandizement, not for national or public welfare.
Okay. So the crux of this whole podcast is that the Pakistani military is running the country.
Yes.
There is a PM in power, and depending on the
Nominal.
There's a nominal PM in power, and depending on the personality of that particular PM, the Pakistani military treats them well or badly.
Yeah, depending on whether they are ready to follow instructions or whether they are going to defy instructions. What did they have against Imran Khan? That Imran Khan was ready to follow them on many things, but there were on many things he would dig in his heels. On the people he wanted to select, the kind of things he wanted to do. He would not listen to the army. So the army was pretty cut up with him.
Yeah. Sanjeev Sanyal on the show had once said that it's important for the government to withdraw itself from verticals where it's not needed. In terms of, you should just be responsible for drafting laws for the country. But try not being involved in places you're not needed. Now, here we're talking about the Pakistani military, which is involved everywhere. The crux of this podcast is, if the Pakistani military withdraws itself from actually trying to run the country, that will serve the country better, much likely. And if you give it in the hands of politicians and administrators.
Yeah, the job of the army is security of the frontiers and some other, maybe intelligence and stuff like that. You'll take care of that. You don't run the country. You don't run the politics of the country. You don't run the economy of the country.
But the only way that the Pakistani military will withdraw from running the country is if they voluntarily decide to withdraw, or if a powerful PM says, hey, you better withdraw.
Or if they lose a war. If they lose a war, they'll have no face. They'll have no legs to stand on.
Obviously, by being in a position of power, there's more money to be made.
Obviously.
And that's what's in it for the Pakistan military generals.
Yes. But they couch it under, this larger thing that we are the protectors of Pakistan, which they are not.
Gotcha.
They've actually bankrupted Pakistan the way nobody else has.
So from a global perspective, here's a country that's collapsing. It's going towards self-destruction. The world knows why it's going towards self-destruction. I'm pretty sure Pakistani people know why it's going towards self-destruction.
Yeah, but you know what the problem is? If now you're sitting in Washington and you look at Pakistan and you look at the situation in Pakistan, you'll say, yeah, look, here is this country with nuclear weapons, 250 million people. If this damn country goes under, who is going to manage the fallout, right? So what do? You say, yeah, look, these generals, but let them do what they are doing. At least they are keeping the lid over this problem. At least this damn thing is not blowing up. So that would be the calculation in places like Europe and in the US and some of these other capitals. And I think a lot of people, that is the intuitive way of looking at it. Okay, they will not look at it in the counterintuitive way that the longer this lot continues to call the shots in Pakistan, the deeper Pakistan's problems are going to be. And that pressure in the system is one day just going to blow up. It's not going to find any release whatsoever. It'll just blow up, right? Nobody will look at that. Politics is all about the immediate crisis taking precedence over the urgent or the important.
Spicy episode, Mr. Sareen.
Thank you.
One last question for you, and you can answer it in short. We ask any geopolitical observer this question. You know what it's going to be. Are we heading towards a worldwide conflict?
We are heading to a lot of disruption in the world. The old order, which was a very comfortable order, you knew what to expect where. In the West, for example, you knew there is going to be democracy, there will be rule of law. There is none, right? So overnight, your visas can be cancelled. Overnight, you will use lawfare to remove opposition politicians from the race. This would happen in Africa. This would happen in other third world countries. India was accused of using laws against opposition members. Today we've seen in France it's happened in Romania, in the US they tried to do it to Trump. So that old order where the West would sit on a pedestal and tell everybody what to do, what not to do is gone, number one. Number two, you have a new guy new sheriff or wannabe sheriff in town, which is the Chinese. They're technologically there, they're economically there, and that's a reality we can't ignore. Number three, you have a somewhat resurgent Russia. You have a lot of problems in the Middle East, rising Islamism at one level, but at another level, you're seeing enlightened leaderships in countries like the UAE, Oman, Saudi Arabia, uh, and that struggle is also going to play out, in the future. So a lot of uncertainty in the world, and that old comfortable order that we were all used to is going. We don't know how trade flows are going to play out. We don't know how energy flows are going to play out. We don't know how military alliances are now going to play out. Everything is up in the air.
Unpredictable, or is there a possibility of an actual conflict?
Look, in unpredictability, there is always the
Possibility.
possibility of a conflict.
Okay. Thank you for being on the show, Mr. Sareen. That's all. I hope you had fun on today's episode.
Great.
That was the episode for today, ladies and gentlemen. Whether it's geopolitics or economics or anything related to the realm of current affairs, my personal opinion is that these subjects should be explained in such a simple manner that it's understandable by a 10-year-old. That's the intention behind all of these episodes. Keeping that intention in mind, please recommend guests, please recommend topics. I do believe that it's the duty of the modern day content creator to bring you unfiltered and simple conversations just like this. Suggest your topics, suggest your guests, and thank you for listening in to TRS once again. Thank you for all the support through a time that's been slightly rough, but we're climbing back up. Lots of love to you. Keep listening in.